Yes, good afternoon again. You will recall that we have been on a topic on what you will do, the steps to take when acquiring a property. We have made a number of presentations on that, and I am prompted to continue on that line to ensure that the issue is properly addressed. And I mentioned that in buying a property, the first thing that you need to do is get a good lawyer who will give you instructions, who will give you advice, the necessary advice. Such advice will not also just be based on the lawyer's whims and caprices. It will be based on the document that is made available, the document of title, which him is supposed to look at and address and advise the buyer accordingly. And in doing so, I have mentioned that in trying to find out details about the title claim of the person who is selling, there are a number of things that you could find out. One of it is that, one, if it is a registered title, then you will be able to know if it is under a mortgage, if there is any form of encumbrance. Is it a mortgage property? Is it a property? Then if it is not, most titles are leaseholds. You will also have to know how many years is left of the lease that has been granted over that property by virtue of this certificate of occupancy on that property. You should also be able to know by reason of research of search which a lawyer will conduct to know whether the property in question is for either public or residential, for commercial or residential purpose. So this is also important. But in the event or in the case where there is no registered title, then the list that will cover the land will be a survey. That survey, I will advise that it's also important to chart it. In charting that survey, you will be able to know whether the property or the land is under government acquisition or is outside of it. Some lands are acquired for agricultural purpose, some are acquired for overriding public purpose, maybe for institutional use and all of that, and some are just acquired just for futuristic purpose. For those ones, you might be able to get an excision or a ratification for an individual user, for an individual buyer, and then a session for a community when the land is large and the community is able to put through, convince the government that all of their lands have been stripped of them and they will require a part of that. And the good thing about land that is excised is that for the community is that because the document of transfer which you will expect to prepare will be a deed of assignment to transfer that title, which will now require just governor's consent. So it will seem to me that the excise land even has an interest in perpetuity, because most times the excisions is not for a terminal time, except for some it will be defined. So for those ones that are not defined, then you could have an interest in perpetuity, which makes it even stronger than the normal or the regular CFO. So this is important. And the lawyer will also help to negotiate and discuss the pricing and make all the preparation of documents. Such documents will include the receipt of purchase, the contract of sale, which will show how the transaction ought to be concluded, and finally the deed of assignment. So this is also very necessary. So these are some of the roles that the lawyer will play. So it's important for the buyer not to go through the process alone. For instance, if it is a family property, if it's a family property and the family wants to sell, and in that case there is no letter of administration in the case of the patriarch or the matriarch who has died without a will, there is no letter of administration. And in case there is a will, there has not been processed a letter of probate, it's also important that such transactions must require a family resolution. A family resolution should precede such transactions where the family have resolved to sell and everybody, the principal members are identified, including the head of the family. You must understand that transaction, if it's a family property and such transactions are conducted without the family head, it is a nullity. That transaction will not stand. So it's important that for every stage of the transaction, you get a lawyer to give you the credible advice. It is very important and it will save you a lot of heartaches at the end. I hope that this uh, uh, counsel has sat down well with you. You are welcome.